This is Detroit's Darkest Times, Chapter 2, Part 2. We're going to start on Huron Street in Detroit, Michigan. A friend of mine lived over there, and I went to stay a few days at his house. While we was there, we took off on a city bus to Renaissance Center, watched a movie, came back home. His mom's boyfriend, his brother, and his uncle was in the kitchen playing cards and popping pills and just partying, stuff like that, and drinking pretty heavy. And we're all in the living room watching TV. It's me, him, his brother, his two sisters. And we hear a lot of commotion in the kitchen, so we get up to go to the kitchen doorway to watch what's going on. And they're getting ready to fight. And his uncle Danny, he's a known good street fighter anyway, so them guys really didn't have a chance. But anyways, Danny's standing up by the refrigerator, and the one guy gets up, he makes a fist and flattens his other hand out, and he punches his hand. I guess that was just his way of saying, come on, let's fight. And so he hits him 2 times real fast, and he falls in the doorway of the bathroom. The bathroom's off from the kitchen. Then his brother stands up, does the same thing with his hand, and then he hits him a couple times and knocks him on the floor. Well, after he knocks his brother on the floor, he looks over back at him, and this guy's name's Jim. And he's done got a gun out, and he's aiming it at him. And we're watching this in the doorway of the kitchen. And he shoots 2 times. And one time the guy, Danny, he spins against the refrigerator. Then he shoots him another time. And he slides down the refrigerator. And then they get up and go back to the table. So the girls run and tell their mom. She comes out of her room. She's always in there like reading a book or something like that. And she comes out and trying to figure out what happened. And then she said, do you want us to go call an ambulance? And he had the gun sitting right beside him on the kitchen table. And he said, no, nobody's leaving. So then everybody was wondering what was going on. The guy was moaning and groaning on the floor, but he wasn't moving. And then I think 45 minutes later, we had to wait 45 minutes, and she kept talking to him, and this guy Jim was her boyfriend. And kept talking to him, finally talked him into it. I guess he just really wanted to make sure the guy died. You know, because this guy was a real known badass in Detroit. And, he just, he got shot twice, so that was the end of his badass days, I guess. But anyways, he said, yeah, y'all could go call the ambulance. So they didn't have a home phone, so they went next door. Everybody went next door to the landlord's house. And then told him need to use the phone, so she calls the ambulance and explains to him what happened. And the police come too, and we're all sitting on the front porch of the landlord's house. So the police go in there, they bring him out in handcuffs, and the ambulance people went in there and they brought him out on a stretcher. And then his mom and her daughters, they left. They called a cab and got in the cab and left, so it left me and my friend there. So we had to wait till they get done with their little investigation before we didn't know if they was going to let us back in the house or not. Actually, we was on the front porch. And so after time went on, we asked one of the police officers, "We're going to be able to go back in?" And they're like, "Yeah, in a few minutes." And so anyway, they got him out of there. Then they was wrapping it up, and they told us we could go back in. And so we went in, closed the door, and lit us a cigarette, and went in the kitchen just to check out what was going on, you know. And dude's shoes was on the floor. The guy got shot. So my buddy picked him up. He was like, I don't think he's going to be needing these anymore. So he picked them up and threw them in the garbage. And so after that, we sit up for a little while talking about the situation. Then we went to sleep. The next morning, we get up, we go make some cereal, eat the cereal. And then he's like, I wonder where my mom went, because she didn't tell us where she was going. And I said, I don't know. She might have went to my mom's house, you know, with the girls. And he said, hey, let's just go to, after we eat, let's just go to your house and see if your mom's been over there. He said, on the way, we'll stop by Betty's house, which is the guy that got killed. It's his mama. And she lived on like 33rd Street and Michigan Avenue. And I said, man, I don't think that's a good idea, because if the police ain't went and told her about her son, I don't think that's going to go over too well. He's like, yeah, surely they done called her and told her what happened and all that. So we're on foot and we walk over there, and he's knocking on the door. Nobody comes to the door. He knocks on the window. And then she finally comes to the door. And she's like, hey, Junior, you seen Danny? And Junior said, I told him, I kind of tapped him. I said, don't say nothing. And he said, my mom ain't been over here? And she's like, no, I ain't seen her in a good while. And then he said, I need to tell you something. And she was like, what? And he said, Danny got killed last night. And we're young guys, you know, but still, I knew better not to say that. But I guess he felt like he needed to tell her or something. So she started freaking out, and she said, what happened? And he said, he got into it with my mom's boyfriend, which is Jim. And they got in a fight, and then Jim shot him 2 times, killed him in the kitchen. And man, she just flipped and she lost it. She started screaming real loud. I mean, loud. And there was a whole bunch of guys across the street playing basketball. And but it was like a big fence, and then they was on the other side of the fence playing basketball. And she started screaming real loud, and we're on the kind of like on the front porch, a little bit into the house. And I told him, I said, let's go, man. And so she just kept screaming, you know, saying a bunch of stuff. And it was really bad to see that, but I knew something was going to go down if he told her, and he went ahead and told her anyways. So we jumped off the side of the porch, and then he ran toward the backyard. So I was behind him, and he jumped the fence, went down the alley, and when we got to Michigan Avenue, we stopped and lit a cigarette, and I told him, I said, man, I told you not to say nothing to her. And he said, well, I figured she needed to know. And we can still hear her screaming from that point where we're lighting a cigarette. I mean, she didn't live but a few houses off Michigan Avenue, but still, this lady was screaming. And I told him, I said, "You see all them dudes looking at us when she started screaming?" And he said, "What, the guys playing basketball?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "They probably thought we did something to her, you know." And but anyways, I told him, I said, "That was a bad idea, dude. You shouldn't have did that." And anyway, we walked on to my house to see if his mom was over there, and got over there, and she wasn't over there neither. So we didn't really know where she went to. And but anyways, it was told my mom about what happened, and then later on, his mom showed up over there and stuff. So it was just a crazy weekend in Detroit City. But later on down the road, some detectives came to my house. I lived on Livernois and Plummer. And they came to my house and they was like, "Hey, you might have to go to court to," no, they said, "You will have to go to court to say what you saw, you know." And that was the last thing I wanted to do, is go to court. So I was hoping that, that would not take place. But anyways, I had a subpoena and then I had to go. And then after that, luckily, when I went to court, me and my mother was out in the hallway, and some dude walked up to us. We don't know who he was, and he said, "Hey, you're not gonna have to testify today, and y'all free to go." And boy, I was relieved because I didn't want to do it anyways. And so, anyways, we left, but they did tell me that they said, "Hey, when you go to court and testify, they're going to give you a check for $25." And after I went home, I was like, "Wonder if they're going to mail that $25 check, even though I didn't have to testify." And but as time went on, that never showed up neither. So that was just I was just seeing if that check was going to come or not. I was still looking for the 25 because I did have to go to court anyways, but I didn't have to testify or nothing. That was crazy. And another incident happened. This is off of Livernois on Whistle Stop, by Whistle Stop Bar. It's about a block down from it. Some people I knew stayed in his house, and they had this dude rent a room from him. And this guy I knew for quite a few years, he started messing around with his lady, and this lady was married, and they was just sneaking around going together and stuff. Well, he didn't have a vehicle, but he had bought him a little car, and finally had a way around where he was just on foot, basically, or catching rides or whatever. And one night, somehow her husband found out about it. I think he just had rolled by and kept seeing her truck over there all the time, or something. But anyways, he was the type of dude. He really would never do nothing himself, not unless it was like beating up his old lady and something like that. This dude was no good. And anyways, he had got somebody to cocktail the dude's car. So they just broke out the window one late night and just cocktailed the car and just burned it completely up right in front of the house. And this dude, he was something else. He's the same dude. I know a lot of incidents that this guy did. It's the same guy that actually had a young boy cocktail this car. He's the same dude that him and his old lady used to have a lot of problems, and she would over time she would find different boyfriends or whatever, just trying to get away from them, basically, because I don't know if they were married or if they was just living together, but I know one time they said it was married, and one time they said it wasn't. So I really not for sure about that. But anyways, one time she was gone and staying with some dude, and he was like, I think out Southgate, Michigan, and I had went out to his house one weekend, stayed the weekend. Me and him went to a bowling alley, shot pool, stuff like that. But anyways, her husband, we'll just say it's her husband. It probably, I don't know if it was or not, but somehow he had followed her out there one time, and then now he knew where the dude lived at. So he just kept riding through the neighborhood, and she was seeing him. So when she'd leave, she'd have to wait till he rolled past because he like circle blocks and stuff. And she was telling me this story. And then she said when he had circled the block, she'd run out to her truck and take off, you know. But she still knew where dude lived, so dude was talking about he was probably going to move or something. But anyway, she was with her sister one time, and he runs her down, and but you know she didn't have no do with her. She just had her sister. And so he caught himself going to jerk her out the car, beat her up, you know, in front of her sister. Her sister wasn't having that, so her sister was fighting him too. So he made a big mistake because what he did, he punched her sister in the mouth. When he did, it knocked out her tooth. And this was a big problem for him because her old man was a real big dude, and he was a street dude. And they knew that they hung around this place, hamburger joint in Detroit called Tailways. And they used to hang out there a lot in the parking lot drinking coffee and shit like that. And so after she went home and told her old man that he had hit her and knocked her tooth out, you know, it was all it took. And he was looking for dude after that. But he couldn't catch up with him, but he knew he could catch up with him at that Tailways hamburger joint because that's where him and his buddies always hung out at. So one night he gets out and he gets some of his friends and they ride up in that parking lot of the Tailways and he's there. And then he confronts them, he hits them, knocks them down against the fence, and he falls on the ground. Then this guy tries to take his wallet out of his pocket and trying to hand him his wallet. But he knew the guy because it's his old lady's sister's old man. He knows him. So I don't know if he's just trying to, give him some money so he wouldn't beat his ass, or if he wanted to give him the wallet so later he can act like the guy robbed him or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know what the story was, but the guy didn't take his wallet. And he hit him a few times, and he told him he ought to kill him, but he didn't, and but this guy, he was just a pain in the ass. I mean, I've had a lot of problems with this guy over the years too, and I'll get into that story on another video, but. This guy, he was just, he was one of them guys that'll beat his wife, but then wouldn't fight no dude, It's kind of like that. And then he wouldn't hardly do anything. He'd always have like young people do dirt for him and stuff like that. So, but his days got numbered, and that's the way it goes, and you do things like that and you ain't actually a man and you beating on women and stuff like that, this is a problem in some people's eyes. But yeah, that dude was a character. And he used to run up and down the highway and stuff to Kentucky and stuff like that. And one time he's coming back from Kentucky, and he gets pulled over, and he's got a bunch of pills with him. So this lands him in prison. Then he goes to prison for a while, then he gets out. And then after that, everything went downhill for him, you know. And but needless to say, he's no longer around. But it's just things that happen, depending on because nobody really liked dude. I mean, he had some friends, but I think there were family members that ran with him and stuff. And even the young cats were just family members or something like that. It wasn't like nobody was cool with him or nothing like that. And but he's had a lot of incidents with a lot of people in Detroit. And I always said that, somebody's really going to get a hold of him one day, and people has got a hold of him and, whooped his ass a few times. But the thing is he would just, if he had somebody looking for him and he knew it, he would just always dodge them. He would stay hid. But just so happened that one guy knew where he hung out at and caught him at the tailways, put him in check. And he's very lucky that guy really didn't hurt him any worse, because you just put yourself in that position and say, well, some guy punched my wife in the mouth and knocked her tooth out. What would I do? You know what I mean? So, you think about it and you see what kind of cat this guy was. But, yeah, that was crazy. And then one time on Liver Noise, I'm in the house watching the news. And the news is talking about this couple on Liver Noise, and that's where I lived at. And said this couple had got robbed, and they got tied up and everything. And then I guess they got loose and finally called the police or something, or somebody called the police for a welfare check or something. I don't really know the whole situation, but I was just checking it out on the news. And then as time passed, I was telling my friends, I was like, hey, the house was only like a block away from my house. And I told them, I said, hey, you see this house right here? And they was like, yeah. And I said, I seen that house on the news the other day. And that couple had got tied up and they said they got robbed. And then after that, they said they got robbed and stuff. So what they did is they moved out of that place right next door to another house. And it seemed like if somebody had, robbed you or tied you up or something like that, and you was trying to move to get away, it just seemed like you wouldn't move right next door. You know what I mean? But me and my friends, we was like, that don't even make sense right there. Then I had one friend said, well, they probably didn't get robbed. They probably was working for somebody and robbed them and just told them they got robbed. And, that's where the money went and all that, because why else would they move just right next door if it was a real robbery, And I was like, I don't know, man. I said, there ain't no telling what happened, but yeah, it don't make sense for them to move right next door. Like if you're trying to get away from the situation, moving right next door, I don't think you're gonna dodge nobody like that, But this was many years back, but that was an incident that happened over there, It was crazy. Then we had another time on Liver Noise where there's some guys that got a bunch of bags of ice, and they took them up on the roof of a building. And what they would do is when the police cars would come by, they would throw ice at the police cars, not bags, just handfuls of ice at the police cars. And then they used to tell us about it. And then we was like, well, if if y'all ever get caught doing that, y'all definitely gonna go to jail. And they was like, well, we was just thinking, they ride by at late night and throw it, and a whole bunch of ice cubes hit the car. They think maybe somebody's shooting at them or something. And I was like, yeah, that's even worse, because I said, if they think that, they're liable to start shooting. Y'all think it's fun and games, doing things like that, but that's a little on the edge. But, that's what some guys in the neighborhood did. They was just, sometimes people just do some crazy shit and not think about the consequences. I remember I was working at a liquor store on Otis and Livernois. And I worked from 10 in the morning to 10 at night. And, if anybody knows anything about working at a liquor store, it's Jim Poller on Otis and Livernois. It's burned down. I think the building's even tore down by now. I think it's just something else right there. But I was working there, and we would just do the coolers, fill them up, sweep, mop, stock shelf, stuff like that. It was a gravy job, but back then it didn't pay that much, but it was something. And a dude that was working with me and stuff, one time they would always tell you, hey, if you want anything, you want to get you anything to drink or whatever, just tell us and we can just write it down. And then when you get paid at the end of the week, we just deduct it off. So I had this one cat working with me, and he had got fired for stealing the chocolate milk. And I guess he wanted to get his whole paycheck and not have nothing deducted off his check. So I guess he was trying to, steal the chocolate milk. He got caught and then he got fired. But I thought that was crazy. I was like, damn, lost your job over a chocolate milk. That's, And then we had a dude that was in the neighborhood, and at one time he had stole a car, and he was going through the neighborhood real fast, and he would, what he'd do, he'd steal cars, and he would get the police to chase him on purpose. And he said that's how he got high like that. And anyways, I wasn't there. I just heard the story from all the neighborhood people that was there. They said he was going through the neighborhood real fast. The police were chasing him. Well, he had slid around a corner, like turning the corners, real fast, and slid into a parked car that had two girls in it. And the two girls, I don't know if they said both of them passed away or one of them passed away from the car, from the impact of hitting the car. And I said, dang, that is crazy. And so anyways, he had, once they found out who it was, then they went to his house, and he tried to jump out the window, and they got him, and then he ended up going to prison. I think he did I want to say 3 or 4 years, something like that. And before I heard that he got out, and then when he had got out, my friend Mike, he was telling me, I went over to his house, and he was like, I was asking him, I was like, hey, you heard from dude? I ain't gonna say his name, but I said, you heard from dude? And he's like, yeah, he got out, but guess what happened? And I was like, what? He said, man, he got out. He was out in the suburbs, and he was up to his old game again, doing the same thing, that he used to do. And he had a screwdriver in his hand, And this is him telling me, I don't know, I guess he heard this from his family members maybe or something, I don't know. But he said he had a screwdriver in his hand, and what he was trying to do is get in this house, because a lot of times out in the suburbs, if you got in somebody's house, they'd have an extra car or two in the garage with keys hanging up, and you could just, you know, do what you got to do. But anyways, that was his intention, to get into that house so he can get him another car, I guess. And anyways, but while he was trying to get in there, I guess somebody had seen him and called the police. So he said then the state trooper showed up and he had a screwdriver in his hand. So the state trooper unloaded his revolver on him, killed him. And this is what my friend Mike was telling me, and I was like, damn, that is crazy. But dude, yeah, that was another dude that just always, just living on the edge, and I guess didn't think about tomorrow, just living for that day. But anyways, and the dude, we knew the dude. Dude was a cool dude, and I know he just accidentally slid into that car, and accidentally hurt them girls. It wasn't like intentional or anything like that. And but that's the kind of stuff you run into when you're doing the things you're doing like that. So people that's listening to this that does that kind of stuff, maybe you need to think about what you're doing, because in the end it ain't worth it. But yeah, dude was all right. Dude is just that was just something he learned to do when he was young, and then he was just doing it, and as a hustle, and he made money, and just things like that. But at the end, it just took him to his demise. So, but that was a crazy incident that went on right there. Then we had this another dude in the neighborhood. I remember he had stole that guy's bike, the one that got shot from the trooper. And before he got killed and stuff earlier on, this guy, back then, people had some nice dirt bikes, and he had stole his bike, and then he lived across Michigan Avenue, and he went over there, and he's like riding one bike and carrying another bike, and just going through the neighborhood, and we didn't really know that guy. We seen him like once or twice, but that's because he lived on the other side of Michigan Avenue, and just every couple of times we seen him in our neighborhood. But anyways, then he came by and said, "Hey, y'all see anybody with a bike?" And he said, "Somebody stole my bike." And then one guy in the neighborhood, he was like, "Yeah, I seen him," and he asked me would I help him take the bike over to his house so he wouldn't have to carry it. So the guy helped him take the bike, but not knowing it belonged to dude, until later on the dude came and asked him, did he see anybody with a bike? And he described it, and then it was